It is almost impossible to find another example of what you should be doing in your presentations. I'm Isaac Okewale, chemical engineering major. I did my CO2 reduction at CU Boulder last summer, and this summer I'm at Johns Hopkins University researching batteries. And we're about to watch a 3-minute thesis, one of my favorite 3-minute theses. And let's get into it. Let's just do it.
So for the next few moments, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing my PhD, and I'm going to tell you Rachel's story. So I would like you to...
All right. There's so much to unpack here. We just started, but let's go. So Imogen started by setting our expectations, the audience's expectations, and then she tells us, okay, we're going to go into a deeper, more personal story.
To imagine that you have a 4-year-old daughter. She is standing in front of you and she is crying. She's really hurt herself. Your father is looking on and he is laughing. He's laughing at his own granddaughter crying. This is not the man you know.
Okay, so this isn't an ordinary story. We're getting that now. I promise I'm gonna stop stopping it so we can actually watch.
This is a symptom of his dementia, and it's getting worse. At age 59, he was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, and symptoms include things like inappropriate behavior.
Okay, so she's taking us deeper by sharing a personal story. And one word, dementia isn't just a medical term, it's a lived experience. And who's Rachel? I'm wondering who Rachel is. And this wasn't just background, it was an ignition. It turns the facts into stakes. It's what connected her to her research, and she's going to expound upon that.
It's a progressive condition, meaning he'll only get worse. In going to your doctor, you found out that he has a hereditary form, and you carry the same faulty gene. You will also get this awful condition. As you look down at your 4-year-old daughter, you know that she has a 50% chance of that same fate. This is Rachel's life.
Okay, we found out who Rachel was. So in this scenario, she's talked about the child's pain, and for me personally, that tugs at my heartstrings. And she set emotional stakes as well. More stakes. And there's now a personal core behind the science. That's that specific form. So she's now framed dementia like a tunnel. And she's going to continue to explain this.
This is the reality of someone living with frontotemporal dementia. However, there is hope.
Okay. Tunnel, no light. Now we have light at the end of the tunnel. Let's go.
We are currently in an era of clinical trials for dementia, and there are actually some treatments in the pipeline for this specific form. However, we currently don't have accurate ways to measure whether these treatments actually work, so they can be approved and not rejected.
Okay, so now, after she said this, we're begging for the solution. And yes, stakes on stakes on stakes, it works.
So, how can we do this? Well, as part of my PhD, I look in body fluids, and this is things like blood. And to do this, I use something called a sandwich assay. And this is not as tasty as it sounds. It's a way to look in the differences between Rachel's blood and people who don't carry the faulty gene. So, what have I found? Well, one major finding for my PhD is the interplay between two key molecules. They're known as progranulin, shown here in purple, and prosapsin in orange. For some context, in our brains, these molecules act like best friends.
Okay. So here's maybe the most important part of your post. Right after you sharing the real-world implications of your research, making something understandable. I don't know how much I can stress this enough. Yes, bio people, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at all of you. Because, your tendency to hide all of that beautiful insight behind acronyms. So instead of jargon, Imogen used an everyday analogy. She used best friends. And she didn't mention all the antibodies or anything else involved in it. She said how a tiny molecule can guide blood treatment.
They're often found together, and they have very similar roles in our brains to keep them functioning as they should. However, in the blood of people like Rachel, we found that there was reduced levels of progranulin and increased levels of prosapsin. This difference could explain what's going wrong in the brain and why we develop symptoms like we see in Rachel's father. So what now? Well, 5 years ago, these trials did not exist and there was limited hope. Now they do exist, but we don't have great ways to measure whether they actually work. Hopefully, this research can change that. Trials that actually restore the balance of these two molecules could help us solve the puzzle of frontotemporal dementia. Now is the time for Rachel and for her young daughter. Thank you for listening.
I'm clapping too. A textbook call to action or a so what moment. Great presentation. Rating time. She set our expectations. She added an emotional hook. She set the stakes and challenges and last but not least, the what now for us to focus on. I give it a 9.5 because I'm greedy. I really wanted to know more about her current trials and next steps. So that's a 0.5 drop. But I want to hear more. And hey, 96.04% of you guys who watch my videos aren't subscribed. If you made it this far, you're clearly different. If you've enjoyed the content, then hit the sub button so I can keep breaking down elite science storytelling and make the next time you present unforgettable. Love y'all. Have a great day.